Welcome to Charts Today. It is Tuesday, the 2nd of June, and apologies, Charts Today is coming to you a bit late today. I did my morning call video this morning, first thing, out to clients, and then I did Charts Today on TradingView, and then I had an interview with IG Index in the City of London. So this is actually my fourth recording of the day. So again, I'm sorry it's a little bit late, but that does mean that we see a little bit more about how markets are progressing. In our energy report this morning, we were neutral on oil and gas, and that is really what is playing out. Today, we're probably a bit more down on gas than neutral, but we are seeing the energy mix just reducing. Looking at currencies, we start first of all with the dollar index, still very flat. The Japanese yen, we're seeing that rate increasing just steadily. This is going to mean the Bank of Japan are going to be wanting to step back in to support the currency. That's remembering the dollar buying more yen. 160 is an alert level for the Bank of Japan. We're seeing Bitcoin down 3.6% today, so that's really quite interesting, falling back through the daily cloud. So we are back in the downtrend, and if we look at the 60-minute chart, we see just this is the move, the move down, the reactive move, and then the move again. It's a fall off a cliff, and so that's really quite key there. Daily chart, that downside target now starting to look like it might come back into play, so that's really quite key there. Looking at the Nasdaq, we see on the S&P, we've got upside target here, but we are flat today. That's on the 60-minute chart, and we are just seeing the market slightly lower. The medium term is still very bullish, and the US market getting excited about these SpaceX and the API for Anthropic and ChatGPT. There's just big waves of things coming there. Looking at the FTSE future, we are just slightly up, but we are still very flat compared to the US market. We've got the DAX future up 0.5% as well, as is the cash. So markets looking, really just taking everything in their stride. And we saw in Asia, the Hang Seng was up 2.5%. That was really quite a strong performance. We're seeing here, though, the chart not making new highs. And the Sensex, we are in this, this is the Shanghai Composite, again, just in a sideways motion there. And the Sensex in India actually recovering 0.5%. It has been pretty weak, but it has activated this downside target. And this morning when I was talking about the Sensex on the TradingView webcast, this had not yet been activated, but now it has, and that's not great news for India. We're below the cloud, new downside target. The Aussie market was down slightly. We're waiting to see which one of these targets is activated, so that's really quite key. Brent crude and WTI are very flat today. Brent's down slightly, WTI is up slightly. We're just waiting to see which way we break. We had all these downside targets on the 60-minute chart, and then we had a bit of a recovery yesterday, quite a sharp move, and then a respite. So the key thing is, can we make a higher high above 98 for crude? That's going to be the really quite a key thing. Cocoa's up 6%. This has actually been quite an interesting chart. When we look at the daily, we see here we are crossing the cloud at the moment. Really quite key there. We've got to make a new high really above 4,600. That would then mean that we've had that really quite clear structure, but we have got more upside targets. Cocoa last week was breaking to new lows. We've got this downside target, so this is coffee, not a great chart there, and sugar has been going lower as well. We look at the daily chart, waiting to see which one of these targets will be activated. We're going into a range at the moment, upside target or downside target, $9 or $20. That's going to be the really key thing. Watch those targets. These are the downside targets. We've got a new little upside target. Can we cross the cloud? This is the range really that sugar's trading. We're seeing grains coming off a little bit as well. Wheat is lower, corn is lower. These are the short-term charts, so that's quite key. And gold, interestingly, if we look at the gold chart, that's the short term. That daily chart for gold, we've got a downside target, but we're just holding a support level. And if we look at the weekly chart for gold, we're yet to activate this downside target, so it's too soon to call a long-term downtrend for gold. Looking at silver, we're up nearly 2%, so we are seeing some recovery there, quite interestingly. And actually, we look at the big tech names, the Mag 7. We have Apple. These were yesterday. We don't quite have prices coming in just yet from Wall Street. They'll be in a minute. Microsoft continues to be a recovery. We've talked about that. That's activated that upside target. Software has been punished in recent months, now getting a re-rating, so that's quite key. Nvidia had a very strong day yesterday, up 6%, but still not quite to new highs. And Tesla, we can see there the upside target. Looking at the UK market, EasyJet, that's been a really interesting one. Medium term bid, there's a bid for EasyJet. Talk of that bid coming from the US. Double bottom potentially there, just moving back above the cloud, but the overall move for EasyJet, if we look at that weekly cloud, it has been pretty bearish, and short term, of course, it has been bullish, and you had those upside targets if you wanted to trade against the trend. Kingfisher also quite strong today, up 3.4%, but that's not a great looking chart on the 60-minute and on the daily, so really not the one to be looking at. Next has been a powerhouse. That has been quite interesting for retail. We've got upside targets there, waiting to see if we can activate this upside target as well, so that's really quite key. And if we look at the laggards in the UK market, British American tobacco down 3%, but has been pretty strong. A lot of volatility there towards the end of the trend. Sage has been an underperformer in software terms. That's really quite key as well. So the really key thing is to keep an eye on these trends. The targets against the trends are not as important as the targets with. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.